Right on. So we were talking a bit about, where do you guys want to start today? Anything in particular? I do have a list. The order in which we proceed is a bit open. One thing I think would be top of mind is the monorepo updates. I got an update from Joe on that. He said by the end of the week we should have a demo for the monorepo, which is awesome. The monorepo was done as part of our RFC process, and I thought that this was a really great outcome from the Detroit 2022 Spinnaker Summit. So, I don't know, Denise, do you want to talk to any of that? The idea of the monorepo or motivations?
Well,
I'm happy to as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's only an RFC, but my role in this is really just making sure that the delivery happens. And as you said, Joe, we were shooting for trying to get it ready before this conference, but we should be done by the end of the week. The demo, as Joe mentioned, there have been some specific challenges, but we're addressing that too. Some things to do with some of the older things like Keel still being in there, and what's going to happen with that long term. Bunch of interesting questions and concerns, but I think it should be great once we do it. We use it now internally, so it matches our internal process. There's going to be questions, of course, about how we migrate from the existing to the new and the steps to do that. And that's really what the demo is about, is showing, we are getting into that conversation of how we make the journey to actually making this a good thing. And then the next step just gives us some tool to move forward.
I think it's going to reduce friction and improve quality. So in our daily lives, internally, we're looking forward to switching to it. I think having it happen open source is going to be kind of the kick in the butt we need to do it. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm happy to work with Joe or whoever to understand all the polished edges and make it all work.
And just for some context for those who don't know, Spinnaker is made up of a bunch of different microservices. So currently there's, 10 or 11 microservices, and then there's a shared library called Cork. Any update that happens to Cork gets propagated to each of the other repos. And then there's some of those other repositories like Orca or Fiat that when they have updates, they in turn have more pull requests to other repos to update their libraries. This is a very complex let's say. And by having a monorepo, you'll have one pull request that would change the common library, as well as update all of those other microservices to make sure they're in line and up to date. This is going to really help with testing and making sure we're reducing breaking changes. I've been there myself where you have an older release that you need to make a change to the common library, and that change is just a lot of work. David's done some great work in automating the backporting changes for Cork to take that whole load off our plates. But this monorepo work is really going to just help with build and release. And reviewing changes as well. So we'll be able to see, hey, given this new feature, what are all the changes in all the services that are needed?
Maybe that does. That moves us to the next topic then, which is the automated testing topic. Right now, each repo has its own automated test, but they only go as far as they go. We build Docker containers, or Docker images, I should say, in each repo, but none of the automated processes ever actually spin up those containers, spin up those images into containers and make sure they work, much less spinning them all up and make sure they work together. So that's a gap that it sounds like we're trying to fill. There are some UI testing efforts and some more back-end focused testing efforts. And I guess that was the next topic, is to see where people are with that and to try to make sure we're aligned and to coordinate. I think the goal is to have a GitHub action that happens in pull request and spins up the just built image and tries it out. Some things are going to be easier with the monorepo, I kind of hesitate to say that we're waiting for the monorepo because I don't really want to slow anything down. If anybody's got some testing stuff, we'd love to have it. It would help validate the monorepo. So, like I said, full steam ahead with all that. But we probably do need to align on what does it mean to spin up these Docker images, and you sort of quickly get into like installation. How do you install Spinnaker conversations? I mean, it can require a lot of control, but it can also be super helpful to make this stuff happen.
On that topic, we have been working to kind of come up with a test plan, operationally say that this is the test that needs to be done, the way it needs to be done. We are going to open source our pipeline builder tool as well as part of the effort. I am just trying to make sure that I can line up dates and that all these things happen. The plan that's in place looks good enough to share.
Working with Ben and Joe, we haven't actually made it public yet.
Yeah.
It's in final stages. Essentially, the thinking is that the 90 you should be able to trade off with GitHub Actions, bring up the instance of the Spinnaker, and run some tests with it, and verify the smoke test all pass. And then scaling.
Pipeline builders in Java, so that was part of the motivation too. So that there's people should be familiar with it and they use it.
Great. So the monorepo probably is not as critical, right? So we should be able to replace it once monorepo comes through. We could start with
So then there aren't any nightly, this sounds scary and sad, there aren't any nightly builds right now. There used to be in the old system. Which Git repo do you figure is going to host until we have the monorepo, where do you figure the nightly builds are going to live?
because that's something we need to figure out. Right now we're doing the builds, right? But everything is fine. So we want to make it into a 91.
Right. Okay. So that's build tool, I guess, is the place that's doing the like ad hoc. We're actually doing the releases. That's what happens. Okay.
We want to stand up.
Yeah. Sounds good. We have a new guest.
Hello.
Hi, Cameron. We're having a Platform SIG meeting. It's pretty informal.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Just touch you guys a little bit.
Yeah. We were just talking about some improvements we're making to our repo structure and to some automated testing. How can you? We're all actually on the TLC of Spinnaker, so we may have about each other. But can you tell us what's your interaction with Spinnaker like these days?
Sure. Hi guys. So I joined Adobe about 10 years ago. Now became manager by SRE team. And we are trying to create new pipelines for very old applications that we have. The application right now is called Connect. It's kind of a platform. It's similar to Zoom. However, we're trying to build the next CD for this, and we are considering Spinnaker a lot. So in fact, we're running a POC right now, and it brought 3 questions from my team. We're trying to understand if it can actually fit into a product, if it can automate. It's mainly actually a Windows shop, even. We're moving to Linux on a new platform, but it's going to take years to get there. So I want to try to understand more, how Spinnaker is evolving. One of the biggest concerns they have is the community out there. Facing issues really complicated sometimes to find an answer to it. So it's my participation.
Where is your stuff running?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. It's all AWS now. We left Azure last year. So
Good to know.
It already has a team that's using Spinnaker.
it does have one, and I've heard from one of our engineers that they're moving away. Apparently because now they developed a platform that's called Equals, and it's filled with Armory integration. So there is that overnight. We can't because
I don't really want to turn it up too much more
We're trying to create
because
CQ
it's
version 1, which is all Windows.
there's a lot of level
stock
coming from
containers.
things here.
So the pipeline is it's complicated.
Okay.
So we do a lot of Jenkins automation, but we think in the long run that would be very complicated to orchestrate a large pipeline using Jenkins. So we need this kind of orchestration layer on top of it, and it seems like Sprinter is the right way to go.
That sounds better.
So have you already done a POC with this Spinnaker, or you just started?
It's phase 1 now. They're deploying and trying to create new staging environments to it. Yeah.
That's
And
way
we
better.
first step we will bring deployment with it. And that's where we are right now, that stage. So does it work well for you guys? Is the future? How is it looking in a year, 2 years from now?
For us, it works great, but my company is kind of large, so we have a lot of different options. My team, we are Spinnaker developers, and the tools moving, I want to see, and for the use cases we solve for, it works great. I think the interesting thing about this landscape is, like you said, for Kubernetes specific, there are a lot of choices, but deploy to everything and manage the things across multiple different domains, subdomains, or even the like hardware for specific things. You can use Spinnaker for all that. But yeah, I think it's you deploy Kubernetes for everything. You got all these others. Spinnaker can do it, right? And so that's what's attractive about it.
Yeah.
But it works.
Yes. Okay. What's the alternative to Spinnaker right now?
To deploy everything, or
Yeah. Like,
Outside of Kubernetes, right? So,
yeah.
certainly to AWS, I feel like Spinnaker is a good answer. Yeah.
yeah, but I can deploy anything. I need to be able to deploy that with anything. Conceptually, I don't really want to do that with the team. Maybe for AWS or Kubernetes or whatever.
That's seems attractive to me.
Checking on.
Yeah, it can be hard to find resources. Like there is this, Spinnaker Slack, and anybody can join, and anybody can search for questions. It's sometimes hard to get questions answered, and it depends on, what part of the life cycle you're at. If you're like really day one, first time user of Spinnaker, like how do I get started? I can imagine it's a little daunting. And certainly when you get to like expert level and you still run into issues, you can ask much more specific questions. That you probably have relationships with people in the community, and so then it's easier to get answers. But when you're in between, and you're like, well, I got it installed and it's sort of working, but it's not exactly working. I think that's one of the challenges we have in the community. Keeping the lights on and keep shipping versions of software. And I know for me, I already invest a lot of time in Spinnaker, and it's hard to invest more. So I kind of resist helping out on Slack sometimes. Sometimes I help. I don't know. It's a challenge. This is one of the things I talk about in one of the keynotes this morning. Is like, well, how do you build a community? How do you get people doing stuff? And pull requests are not the only way to contribute for sure. Like helping out on Slack, helping out with community support issues is a huge way. Yeah.
Forums.
It's great. Yeah, we have like GitHub issues and Slack. I think those are the two places. So at least it's a little bit focused. It's still pretty. It's a good challenge.
Yeah, I think part of that too is you have this barrier to entry or this really high bar to entry with Spinnaker. And one of the things that the TSC is trying to do is lower that bar to entry. There are some efforts going on with the customize and some in order to set up Spinnaker. And I think doing those things, putting it in the channel, having categories like me kind of guide some of that, maybe some of that kind of way having some more engagement for people might help us build better team. It's definitely going to be a process, right? It's not going to be something that just kind of happens magically overnight. Spinnaker has a lot of tech in it, and that's also things, people are more interested in doing. So as those things happen, if we can keep momentum, at least even in this group, I think you will see that improvement because it will make things easier for you to contribute, it will make it easier to use. That's more about healing. It makes it easier to get it from the channel. If it's super complicated, then you have only a few people who understand it, that work with it, and help with the channel, right? But if we decrease the time that, if we lower the bar of entry so that more people have the knowledge, and you'll see more people responding because it becomes very cool. And so that's the workflow, that we're trying to get to, pack that, and then move forward. Now, all of us are still contributing things. There's still like our students for like CV links. There's my team. There's we do a few hours for account management via the database. Everybody's has some efforts that they are working on and contributing. These guys up here, which is big, yeah. And so that helps, right? Because it's more engaging. There's things that you can use and continue to extend. But the nature of the fact that it will deploy to everything, I think ultimately will keep it around like a view or something. It's just going to be in the front yard and 10 years from now, we'll talk about this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Going off of that too, I think we were talking about integration and end-to-end testing right before this, and I think by having that in place, it'll make contributors more confident in making changes. Because it's pretty daunting when you make a change in one repo and you have to look at other repos to identify, hey, did this work out well? And having good tests in place and making that transparent as well, so that members of the community can see, hey, what happened? Why did this test fail? Or I'm having this issue. Can I write a test to exercise that to make sure we don't have that regression in the future? So that type of participation is going to be really key, I think, in the community, because everyone has very, very different ways of using Spinnaker that I'm sure that we've all seen, and just as talking with each other, people use it in very, very different ways, but it is flexible enough to do that. And by having the different types of tests or workflows as part of that integration testing suite, I think will be great.
You just reminded me of something. So one of the things that we like people to do when they submit a code change, they're like, hey, this is broken, I want to fix it. Or, maybe I just keep saying this, and I'm the annoying guy that keeps saying it, but it's like, well, where's the test? Write a test that fails, an automated test that fails, and then you fix it, and then the test starts to pass. It's like test-driven development. People don't even talk about it anymore because it's like the way people work. But what Cameron just pointed out is that sometimes some little detailed Java level super bits and bytes code test is not the test that people care about. What people care about is this pipeline used to fail. And if people could, lots of people, it's more people will sort of know about pipelines probably than intricacies of some, crazy JVM detail. And so to be able to submit a pipeline that fails is also another way to open things up to contributions. One other thing I wanted to say about how to decide to use Spinnaker or not to use Spinnaker. One of the knocks I think on Spinnaker over the years has been that it's expensive to operate. It's definitely getting less expensive. I'm going to give a talk tomorrow that has some big numbers in it about how much less expensive it's getting. But I work at Salesforce and we have pretty massive scale, and we spend a lot of money on Spinnaker, and people want us to spend a lot less money on Spinnaker. So I have a whole team, my team, and cousin teams and sibling teams, and hundreds is maybe slightly overstating it, but not that much. Lots of people are very focused on making Spinnaker more efficient. So if that's the urban myth that Spinnaker is very expensive to operate, I think we're going to get past that.
Yeah. So that's the advantage. So they've been using it at a very large scale. So with Spinnaker, that's a reliability kind of thing. It has the mileage in the field, deploying to different environments. The cost is being addressed, but you get that reliability with the money.
Yeah, but it's good to know it's stable and it's out there and working well.
Yeah, Salesforce is good.
Yeah. Would you say expensive? Is the operation of it, right? Oh, sure. Presentation. I'm just
I guess there are lots of different dimensions to that. There's human cost to it, but I'm really talking about computing resources. If you it sort of depends how many places you're asking Spinnaker to deploy to. If you're only asking it to deploy to, let's say, one AWS account, and that's an AWS account that doesn't have very many auto-scaling groups or security groups or images or any of the AWS resources, if there aren't that many, then Spinnaker doesn't have to work that hard to understand what's going on there. But if there are 10,000 accounts and each of them have thousands of those AWS objects, Spinnaker works very hard to keep track of them all. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily do it in the most efficient way. And when it doesn't, people get woken up at night where I work and I don't even have to figure it out. So we're getting there. And it is, these issues are sort of, in Spinnaker terms, what we say cloud provider specific. So the code that handles that for AWS accounts is different than the code that handles it for Kubernetes accounts and for all the other different kinds of cloud providers. So if there's a specific thing that's inefficient, we can home in on that thing and fix it.
Is the cloud provider is regular perception, right? And so the resource-driven side of that is Spinnaker just checking to see if everything is in place that it's supposed to be. And they're checking all the things. That's going to be expensive. And the more things you have to check, the more expensive it's going to be. There are other ways to attack that, and that goes back to this group and the conversation that I had before we even started meeting, is that the companies need to be company-driven. Like Adobe, Salesforce, Apple, JP Morgan Chase, let's sit down and talk about what's important to us, what efficiencies are important to us, and that gives us the direction to attack. And then it also helps, Cameron and their vendors and say, hey, if this thing works, then you can install more stuff. We should have a conversation with that man. But my team also, we developed against Spinnaker, and the difference is they're taking up. We write code, we write Spinnaker code for the internal version of Spinnaker for our company, and we also run instances of it. But we write code along with things that we want to more efficient, so that we can keep our team small. So that's all we manage our costs. There's nothing I can do about the cost of piece now, where it's like, okay, to manage all of the things, I still need, a couple of instances, this much memory, and this much network. To be able to do that, there's no way to around.
Yeah.
The Spinnaker does two things, right? One is the deployment, and also keeps track of what's currently running in the target environment. So as an operations, you can come in and say, what is the status of my deployment in this cluster currently? And so that's part of where it does the periodic refresh of what's running in the target environments, it stores all it in memory. So that's the cost that he's talking about. You have a large number of these clusters that you're deploying to, and depending on the number of resources of these clusters, you grow the. But he's going to talk tomorrow on some of the efficiencies that brought down the
pipeline complexity issue too.
Yeah.
That we are all super cognizant of is the pipeline complexity issue. Because if you leave your pipeline and you're passing it one step forward, it can be really interesting.
Interesting is very nice.
Actually, I want this to be a positive comment. So I may not have my words organized to make it that way, but what ends up happening, and I think it happened at Salesforce, it started before I got there, and you guys probably see it in a bunch of your customers, that the POC happens, and somebody makes a pipeline or makes 10 pipelines, and if you're lucky, right, everybody gets the green light, things go forward, people get very excited, but you still got these pipelines, and now somebody's going to come up with an abstraction layer, or a team's going to build pipelines for other teams and help that. But these original pipelines are probably still around, and they probably have to keep working. And sometimes you wish you could change them. And anyway, pipelines get complicated, even with the best intentions in the world. And anyway, this can be a hard problem. There are blue-green deployments and inception things about Spinnaker, upgrading Spinnaker, and these are all the classic CD problems that we feel like we're good at solving and we know how to talk about, but change somebody's pipelines and people start to get hurt feelings, you know, and they can be hard to change.
And the fact that they're pipelines and pipelines, I don't know if you can estimate
It depends.
then we can end up creating these really interesting loops or moving environments and then, you know, I've seen teams.
Sorry, do you mind using the mic?
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
The short of what I was saying is that it gets complicated, right? Because you can have pipelines that call pipelines. You can accidentally create loops, and through passive context with those loops, you build some memory. And at some point, you just run out of memory. You know, the failure itself will propagate quickly because what happens is the orchestrators are unaware that you created this problem, and then the next orchestrators will just try to pick up the tasks that are still there, not realizing that it's actually, you know, too much memory. And so that's the catastrophic problem that is always in the back of my mind as someone who manages instances. And finding ways to one, track what's going on, quickly, you know, recognize that and rip those out of sight. But you can also teach and train. And so we work with the teams who have the most complex pipelines and say, hey, these are the ones, this is the way to handle these problems. Talk to us about it, we can tell you what's good. And there's also ways not to have complex too, by the way.
How do you work around those limitations? Do you come up with benchmark as you go progressing?
We have so many monitors in place. It is, yeah, we do a lot of monitoring of our environments and what's happening in the orchestrator also. And as we see that from any pipeline, we will take actions.
Also, in your organization, are you going to be the central team that provides the tools to software teams and developers, different groups that use them?
Yeah, we're gonna kind of we're gonna define the path, and from there, we're gonna try to get the engineering developers to come along with us in the CI portion of it. But yeah, our team is going to be kind of the core to make that happen. And now we're just going to cherry pick up technologies, which one to speak to each one, and it's kind of hard because there's so many out there, and you know, you do a POC, all right, but you know, you're going to go the whole year and not doing the work. So we kind of centralized on aiming and Spinnaker. So I'm feeling some pushbacks from the engineers, but I'm sure have to sit with them and understand what they are. But one of the things I also asked is like, do we have any trainings? Is there any training online? Is there a place you go and take a class?
I know that Armory provides training. I think does Optimize provide training as well?
Yeah, we provide training on a need basis. So
Yeah.
we don't actually have regular training sessions going on. But if there is a need, then we are also an implementer.
In the Armory as well. Yeah, we will provide training.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are like some blog posts and stuff and videos, so maybe it depends on the particular topic you're interested in. But yeah, these are good resources, and if not, have you found your way to Spinnaker Slack yet? Yeah, I mean, I'm David Byron. Send me a note on Slack. We'll try to get you connected with the right folks.
And what I've seen is there's different trainings for different folks, right? There's you all would need operating Spinnaker training, and then your developers need to know how to use Spinnaker itself, and that's an important piece of that puzzle too. Yeah.
This is very exciting. Thank you.
Where are you based, by the way?
In terms of,
Oh, great.
you guys are there?
Almost all of us.
I'm in San Diego myself.
Yeah. You here?
Thank you.
All right.
Cam's in San Diego these days.
San Diego.
Armory, I guess, is technically based in there.
Yeah, we're in the Bay. Yeah.
So you guys all live here? Are you leaving there?
I live in Berkeley.
I'm in the East Bay, San Diego.
Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn. Just the opposite.
Right.
All right. Is there a drink?
Perfect, that's good.
All right.
Yeah, I know that there's meetups on occasion in the Bay Area too. So if you guys are ever around, I don't know if there's DevOps specific ones. I think there used to be pre-COVID, but it's been a while. I know in San Diego we are trying to revive the meetup community, and it's been relatively successful. So it's been, but meetups are kind of a cool way of getting the word out there.
Yeah, I don't know if this is going to end up being a rant or helpful, but like, I think in some ways what I wish there were like best practices documents out there, and people could say, oh, this is how you write a pipeline, or this is how you don't write a pipeline, and these are the things to think about, and we maybe don't have as many of those as we wish. And I think I end up spending more of my time on the implementation side, I don't know, maybe making it harder to make mistakes so that like you sort of can do whatever you want, or at least try whatever you want, and Spinnaker will tell you when you're doing something that doesn't work. I feel like we may have some slightly deep waters to walk in about like adjusting the way Spinnaker does authentication to make rate limiting easier, and to make like, I don't know, quotas for the various ways that Spinnaker slices and dices this work so that, you know, noisy neighbors and denial of service and things. And maybe these are all the things that Salesforce cares about. And if you have smaller instances of Spinnaker or make more dedicated instances of Spinnaker, you don't have to care about. We do wish we had better rate limiting. And then the kind of thing, like, and you know, more open source dashboards and alerts. And we actually have a reasonable progress at that. So you won't be starting from scratch. But it's not as easy as I wish it were. Yeah.
Yeah, the dashboards, it's a lot better than what they used to be. You do get a good sense of the operational things.
Yeah, Spinnaker came out in 2015. It was an internal project at Netflix during that time, and it was open source later. I believe it was that same year after Google joined the project.
I think some of the commits go back that far though. Yeah, the Git history goes back to 2015 probably.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a pretty mature product, and one thing that's really interesting is there's, you know, companies are large and they have a lot of footprint. Not everyone is Kubernetes only. As much as maybe people might like that idea, there's industry trends that are pointing that, you know, Kubernetes only is not necessarily the right way to go. And Spinnaker's been around before Kubernetes, and it works great with Kubernetes, but it also works great with not Kubernetes too. So if you're a large organization, or maybe you acquire a company or something, and you have to onboard them onto your DevOps platform, if they're not on Kubernetes, you know, that's going to be a challenge. And then now you're trying to integrate them while moving them to Kubernetes, and that's just kind of a pain. So if you're able to meet your customers, who in this case are your developers, meet them where they're at, you can allow them to use the right tools for the job, essentially.
I forget how long we're supposed to go. It's 10 past 12.
This goes to 12:30, 21 minutes. Okay.
I had till 12.
Oh, until 12? Oh.
11:30 to 12.
Ship it.
Sweet. Well, I think this has been a great conversation. Thank you all for joining today. Any closing remarks that anyone would like to make?
We also need this argument for the cloud SIG, especially for specific cloud environments, what's changes and what happened. I don't know if you want to be for that.
I mean, it's on the schedule, so I think we need to show up at least and see who's here.
Yep.
I mean, I think Matt came up with some interesting Kubernetes stuff. It's another place where we like to build some momentum. That's usually, you know, I think for as much as this might have felt like it was in the weeds, that has the risk of getting even further in the weeds and like very, very specific details of how Spinnaker works and how Spinnaker, you know, operates with Kubernetes. But you know, in the end of it, all these are the things that matter. When something doesn't work, we gotta fix it. We gotta get in there, get our hands dirty, and fix it. But it could be interesting to see. Yeah.
Yeah, so join us later today at the Cloud SIG. I guess if you're watching the recording, expect that video online as well. Thanks very much. Catch you all later.
Great.
The side of the bottom is very visual. I show you. I don't know if you've reached the reading glasses phase of life. I need them for this.
Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for clarifying, taking this session to answer my questions.
Yeah, it was helpful.
Are you familiar with CV training? Adobe papers to that you use one of the.
Yeah. We were going to have Mike today, but he got an accident, so car accident. So he's co-host just the presentation. But I'm familiar with that part because Adobe created this DevOps platform, which is kind of a hybrid mix of management for Azure, AWS, and so on, and IBM. And you have all of this standardized, all the teams unload their apps and shit. So, but it's very kind of locked down. You're gonna use all there's no option. So it's good for the whole company, but some teams have different needs and you cannot fit it, which is our case with the legacy part. So you guys help me understand the your kind of queue.
So we're the Department of Technical Oversight. So we formed about a year ago, a little bit less than a year ago. We combined the steering committee and oversight committee into one, so that we're a bit more agile. Yeah, responsible.
This is the project governance group. We're the ones who are going to have admins, set up the rules for who can pull requests, and try to decide what are the things going to be and what are the things that we try to put our we've got the Super Spender project. These people so nice.
Well, thank you guys.
And I mean, lots and lots of contributors in the community and all people who work for all these companies. I don't think too many people are writing. People don't really contribute to spend for a year on this all getting salary.
There's not many people running to figure out how to find.
Yeah, they're not doing like whatever smart house projects with it. It's not really for that.
It is a large scale.
Yeah, there's still talking. They finished.
Raspberry provider. Yeah, it has been pretty cool to see how the community's changed over time. People have and that's,
I think, but then I saw this again.
But it was rough.
Continue, but they're not using the mic.
Yeah, I was
So I recorded again. Press stop for a minute.
I just
Oh, I saw a lot of burnout and a lot of people were like, no, I don't have time to do this. They would be on top of their extra work sometimes. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it was more than just COVID, right? Netflix stepped back and Google stepped back, and they were leading a lot of the project and certainly keeping a lot of the building infrastructure alive.
I don't know. I'm asking because I'm sure the company will have to put some cash there to help us expedite this. We're like deadlines tight.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of the like Spinnaker growth path. Like, at some point, especially if you have like, I don't know what technology Adobe uses to make the products in itself, but if you have a bunch of Java developers on your staff, Spinnaker is just a bunch of Java code. And so at some point, like, how does it work? You can call Armory and then pay them to answer you, or call SMS and pay them to answer you, or you can look at the code. And at some point, the problem's getting gnarly enough that you look at the code yourself. But at the beginning, it doesn't make sense to invest in that, and you wouldn't necessarily even know what to look at the beginning. So this is, like I said, it's a sort of important people produce artifacts, Docker images, blessed by the Spinnaker community, people download them and use them all the time. And at some point, you'll start building your own. And at some point, you'll start plugging off little things.
Or make plugins.
Or make plugins, or you'll contribute to that. Or
Yes.
you'll be crushed under the weight of the 50,000 customers this week that just got added and you won't have time to contribute to that. But you'll make it and say, I don't know, this is the one.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks so much.
We should connect
Yeah,
and
we
chat.
should.